The creek flowed around, over, and through damming rocks. Shh, Joan told her inner thoughts as she waited. Her feet throbbed from only a short jaunt down the mountain trail. A deep breath of mineral air took the edge off her anxiety. Moving over to a rock, she sat down. She lifted the hood of her red sweatshirt over her head. The hike was the first bit of exercise she'd had in a while, a desperate act to change her life. She picked the mountains. They were going to be her cure. Her job had offered her a promotion. She could have picked 3 new sites. She chose the branch located in the mountains. She told herself she'd go on walks. 33 years old, 285 pounds, high blood pressure and cholesterol were going to kill her. With nothing tying her down, Joan moved to Hill City. She would have no excuse, at least no reasonable excuse, for not getting exercise. Joan dangled her feet in the stream. This is it. I'm going to do it. For real this time. I'm tired of feeling this way. Tired of this miserable excuse of living. A tear fell. Wiping it off with her hood, Joan lifted feet. The swelling had gone down. Let's either get moving or go home. She moaned as she stood. Stepping on grass, she kicked her feet dry. Then, she put on her socks and shoes. Joan, don't overdo it. But you can't piss around either. It has to be a workout. Or you'll be a fat slob for the rest of your life. She grit her teeth and power walked to the trail. I'll just go until I see another rock formation. Then I'll turn around, Joan said. The trail slithered downhill. For Joan, walking was sugar-flavored cyanide or cyanide-flavored sugar. The exercise was healthy, but it left her alone in her thoughts. Stay positive. Stay positive, she thought in cadence with her steps. She couldn't suppress it. Her surroundings just goaded them out. The family vacation to the mountains. Her first daunting memory. Her parents had vacationed in a similar location to Hill City. It was a great trip, at least at first. Until they went swimming. Teenage boys snickered at the whole family. Shamu and crew. I'm going blind. Can they catch fish in their rolls? One put twigs in his mouth, clapping like a walrus. His friends laughed. Their voices dropped to a low glottal roar. The noises echoed inside her head. From experience to experience, Joan's thoughts blitzed to her college years. At first, college was easier to handle than high school. People acted more mature, or at least hid their immaturity better. One night. That night. Some classmates invited her out. They went to a club. Loud and crowded, it wasn't Joan's thing. She spent most of her time at a table as her friends flaunted their skinny bodies. Some tried to beckon her out onto the floor. Joan didn't dare go. She imagined the scowls. A fat girl and a crowded dance floor don't mix. She chuckled with melancholy. Hours dragged, strobe lights flashing like torturous time ticks. Various men hit on her friends. I wish one of them would come up to me.
Hi.
A voice nearly shouted from her side. Joan turned. A skinny, bleached blonde smiled. Strobe lights danced in his eyes. He had a boyish face and a tight tee. Joan's lips moved without words.
I haven't seen you in here before,
The man said. Are you talking to me? Joan's heart thumped as hard as the techno.
Yes. What is your name?
Joan.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Joan.
Nice to meet you.
He offered her his hand.
I'm Nate.
Nice to meet you too. She grabbed his hand, swooning of nerves from the soft, hot grip.
It's hard to hear in here. Do you want to go outside to the balcony?
Sure. He led her through the maze of bodies to a glass door. String lights traced the railing that fenced out the city beyond. Not many wanted to be out in the cold, so the two had the balcony to themselves.
I've seen you around campus, haven't I?
Nate asked, his breath steaming. You may have. I do go there.
Where are you from?
Missouri. You?
Arkansas. Why'd you come here for college?
I don't know for sure. It just felt right. Besides, they had a good accounting program.
So, you're a numbers person?
Yeah, I guess. Joan chuckled, moving her hair away from her face. What's your major?
Undeclared.
Oh. They stayed quiet. Music from inside seemed to beat on the windows, wanting to escape. Nate's face trembled. Is he nervous? He doesn't have anything to be nervous about. I'm the one.
It is a beautiful night, isn't it?
Nate spoke up. Sure is.
Do you see that star over there?
Nate leaned close to her, brushing his shoulder against hers. The dull one? Her voice squeaked.
Yeah.
What about it?
Legend has it that star is a spirit of a woman whose love had died in battle.
Really?
Okay, maybe not. I kinda made it up. But I heard that one of the stars somewhere is something like that.
Oh.
I guess. I'm not good at talking to girls.
Oh.
I don't really like the club scene. Do you want to go on a walk?
Sure. The two left the club, the stars and the half-moon leading. Joan shivered. Nate pulled off his jacket, placed it on her shoulders, and gently rubbed her back. A picture-perfect everything. This is too good to be true. No. No, it doesn't have to be. There are guys who like women like me. No. I don't know. Just don't overthink this. Enjoy it. The two had wandered to the edge of the campus. The Greek letters Pi Rho Kappa shined bright on a beckoning frat house. Green paint and blue trim of the building was tacky. Not that college guys cared about that type of thing, but popped. Oriental garden lights strung between the columns of the front porch. A charcoal grill sat on top of the deck wall, and a porch swing swayed, bumping into a garbage-canned keg.
This is my fraternity,
Nate said. I've never been in a fraternity before.
You want to come in?
Sure, but where are the rest of the guys?
They're all at the club. They won't be back for some time.
Okay. The front stairs creaked and cracked as Joan walked up. Nate opened the door. The place was party-trashed. A fireplace and shelving towered in the living room, displaying pictures of past members. Joan walked over to the pictures and chuckled. Men wore pig noses and held saluting steins. These old members? She asked.
Yes. After their promotions to the highest echelon, pitmaster.
Are you a pitmaster?
Not yet.
Nate showed her the rest of the house. He ended leading Joan down a second-story hall toward a room labeled The Sty.
This is the room where you can be alone with guests.
Nate opened the door. The room was bare, all but a lone futon with a couple of blankets. A cord snaked from underneath the futon to a closet door. Joan walked in. Nate sat on the futon, propping a knee up. Heavy-breathed and light-headed, Joan sat beside him. They were silent, for a spell. Nate avoided eye contact.
Has anyone ever told you you're beautiful?
He whispered. No. Joan's eyes watered. She had always wanted to hear those words. To be pursued, found beautiful. Someone's princess.
Well, I'm saying it now.
Nate stroked his hand through her hair. The back of Joan's neck shuddered. He moved closer and lightly kissed her. She had never been kissed. She didn't know what to do with her lips or her tongue. She let Nate be. The kissing grew more and more intense. Consumed by the moment, she suppressed any urge to stop. You shouldn't go so fast. Slow down. But I can't stop him. If I do, who else will ever be attracted to me? His hand moved under her shirt. She put her hand on his, contemplating pulling it away. No. No. He must love me. I'm not going to ruin this. Nate lowered the futon to its bed position. After the two had finished, Joan curled underneath a quilt.
I have to use the bathroom,
Nate said stoically. He stood up and put on his clothes. He paced out of the room, carrying a mass in his arms. Joan rolled to her back and stared at the wooden ceiling beams. Dreams of a future with Nate circled in her head. Maybe we'll get married. I can't wait to tell my friends I have a boyfriend. As thoughts of a mountain wedding projected onto the inside of her eyelids, footsteps clopped outside the door. Nate? Giggles joined the footsteps. Nate? Joan sat up, searching for her clothes. They were gone. She wrapped her body with a quilt. Who's there?
Yes! It is a record!
A muffled voice declared from outside.
295 pounds!
Cheers roared and the door burst open. A crowd of drunken college boys rushed in wearing pig noses, snorting a rhythm. One man carried a video camera. Nate followed the initial wave wearing Joan's clothes and a crown. He chugged a beer stein. The blushing sensation of embarrassment consumed her entire body, not just face. She could not imagine anyone, anywhere, suffering a more humiliating experience, losing her virginity by the means of a college prank. She burst out in tears as the men mocked her. Their boyish figures morphed out from the fake noses into standing swine. Terror clawed at the back of her eyes. Her lungs lost their air as snorting turned to squealing.
Advancing to the rank of pitmaster!
The president's jowls flapped.
Nate Demon has officially bagged himself the second largest porker in Pyro Kappa history!
Joan screamed a horror movie scream. Pig squeals roared. She jumped off the futon, desperately trying to keep herself wrapped with the quilt. As she pushed through the snout-sniffing swine, jowls gnawed at her blanket. One grabbed hold and managed to tear it away. Snorting chuckles roared. Joan ripped the quilt from the frenzied pig and ran from the room. She only managed to cover her shame fully after she reached the front door. The following day, she dropped out of school, moved to her hometown, and attended a community college. From that point on, she avoided people as much as possible. She never told her parents what had happened, but they knew it was something. Joan burst into tears as she hiked the Hill City trails. She walked further than she had planned, trapped in her own dark thoughts. Downhill travel made it easy to forget about the workout. If only she had someone to walk with her, someone who would know her limits. She turned around. A steep ascent mocked her like those college swine. I can't do it. I can't do that. You walked too far, Joan. You hurt too much to go on. Joan sat down upon a rock and cried. I can't do this anymore. What is the point? Why survive? I've been killing myself slowly for years. Why not get it over with? Let me just stay here and die. But I can't stay here. Someone is bound to walk by. If they see me here, they'll get help. Joan decided, and was at peace. A hint of energy hit her. She hopped up and power-walked to a rock formation split by a gap. A steep, downward draw descended into darkness. She stared down. Darkness beckoned her. I don't know what is down there, but at least no one will find me. Maybe. There's a cliff. I can end it faster. I hope the gap isn't too thin. That would be embarrassing. Getting stuck trying to kill myself. Joan swallowed and squirmed into the draw. Her sides rubbed against it, helping her keep her balance, even taking weight off her feet. She had to wriggle to squeeze through a couple of jutting areas. I can get down, but I'll never be able to get out of here. Reaching the bottom, Joan exhaled, her sides and arms scraped. She looked back up toward the trail. The draw traveled was mostly lit, with only a shade of shadow at the bottom. It seemed darker from the top. Let's see what I can find down here. Joan walked deeper into the woods. Dead pine needles covered the ground. The basin was darker as she walked farther, but she couldn't find a cliff. Evergreen trees and a maze of jagged rock blocked a direct route anywhere. After she worked herself to her maxed huffing and puffing, she stopped in a grassy clearing. This looks like a good location to die. She sat down and waited. Joan let melancholy consume. Every experience, each comment, every dirty look. She let the sounds and images backhand her, letting no good thought save her. Over an hour had passed. Joan could cry no longer. Heavy sweating and gushing tears dehydrated her. She drank the rest of her water. I know this will keep you alive longer, but I need to keep crying. I can't stand the numb feeling. Finishing the water did not regain her tear-producing ability immediately. She grew restless. She wanted to cry but couldn't, which made her pain even more intolerable. There has to be a faster way to end this. With this body, I probably have enough fat reserves to keep me alive for years. She scanned the area. Mushrooms. Maybe I can find one of those poisonous ones. Yeah, that'll work. Joan stood up and walked deeper into the rocky, wooded maze. Not finding any mushrooms, Joan screamed. What does a person need to do to kill herself? A dark hole in a nearby rock mass caught Joan's eye. She walked toward it. A small cave bore where the rock met the ground. Joan bent down and looked inside. If there is a bear in there, I bet he'd help me out. She dropped down on all fours and crawled inside the low-roofed cave. Gritting her teeth, she suppressed a creeping fear as she burrowed deeper. She had matches but didn't want to use them. She wanted her death to be a surprise. How long will it take a bear to tear me up? I could feed a bear family for weeks. Supper's ready, come and get it, she yelled. Nothing but a hint of an echo. As she crawled deeper, Joan reached a point where she could stand, and she walked instead. Maybe there's a deep chasm, and I'll fall to my death. Just as long as it is a surprise, I don't care. She hit a wall. Damn. This is it. Nothing. Joan pressed her hand against the obstacle. Wait. This isn't rock. It is smooth. Very smooth. And there are straight seams in it. This is not natural. It is man-made. She slid her hands further. It's a little taller than me. It's not that wide either. This isn't a wall. It's a stack. Joan rifled through her backpack and grabbed her matches. It took a few moments to get a good strike. Joan's eyes hurt as the match flared. Her sight was overwhelmed with yellow. It took her a couple of minutes to realize the color wasn't only from the flame. Gold. 4 stacks of gold bars piled up in a 4-leaf clover pattern. Each stack was roughly 6 feet high by 4 feet wide and 4 feet deep. Joan's lungs slapped her heart. How much is this worth? Millions. Even billions? What is this gold doing here? Is it stolen? How'd they get it down here? Joan paced circles around the gold, lighting a new match as one went out. I could take this home. It's just, I'm not in good enough shape to carry it through the gap. There's no one I trust to help me either. Maybe I can get a better backpack and get in shape. I can slowly bring as much as I can out of here. Yeah, that's what I'll do. But should you? This is not yours. But why not? My life has been garbage until now. It is about time I caught a break. With renewed vigor, she scampered out of the cave. An hour or so later, she found the draw that led her down. The narrow accent mocked her, all but the top quarter, dark. All right, Joan, you got to squeeze through there. Better hurry. It will be getting dark soon. Joan began to wriggle into the gap. She knew she would be hard-pressed to make it back to her car before dark. The jagged rocks cut into her skin as she fought to climb. Looking to the end was too overwhelming, so Joan set smaller goals. Certain cracks and juts became her targets. To the next crack, she kept telling herself. Once her head passed the point where light and darkness met, she felt confident she was going to make it. She stepped 2 hops higher. Then, the rocks seized. They grabbed her sides and wouldn't let go. No, no, no. She flailed and flopped, but the chasm wouldn't let go. This can't happen. I've finally found something worth the world, and now I am not going to be able to enjoy it. Darkness crept up from behind her as the sun shifted. Soon she would once again be consumed in darkness, unable to do anything to save herself. Stuck between cold, hard, massive boulders being consumed in darkness, Joan cried out, "Somebody please help me! Please!" She did not plead long.
Are you okay?
A voice called from above. Joan looked up. A young bearded man stood at the top. His nappy, intertwined hair jutted out over a red bandana like a crown. Sweat had soaked his worn shirt, and his khaki cutoffs and sandals were tattered. Please help. Joan was ready to hear him laugh. She didn't care. Who wouldn't laugh at a fat woman stuck between two rocks? I'll let him have that entertainment if he'll save me. With a compassionate expression, the man tossed off his hydration pack and walked down toward Joan. He offered her his hand. Bet you're wondering what business a fat girl had walking down here. Joan chuckled with pride-saving intentions.
I'm relieved that I found you. You could have died.
He spoke sternly, yet with a tender empathy. Joan grabbed the man's hands and he slowly helped pull her up. He had to shift her like a saw to shimmy her up. They reached the top. Uninhibited, Joan wrapped her arms around her rescuer. She never hugged a stranger like that before. She knew people didn't like to be smothered by a fat person. He did not cringe or push away. He simply let her hold him as he rubbed her back. He grew, or became, or felt softer. Joan couldn't quite describe it. Joan let him go. It was no longer a man standing before her, but a ram, a kind and noble creature. Horns curved boldly at the side of his head. Joan shook her head and closed her eye. Exhaustion is getting to me. She opened her eyes and the man was still a ram.
Sit down,
He said. Joan walked in a daze to a rock. The ram softly placed a hand on her forehead.
You're burning up. Do you have any cramps?
A little bit.
Do you have any water?
No, I drank all mine.
Here,
He handed her his hydration pack.
drink as much as you need.
Why is he letting me drink from his tube? Men hate to share with a fat woman. If I was a beautiful skinny thing, they can't get enough of that spit. As if it is somehow cleaner. Well, he's nice, but I guarantee he won't drink out of it after I'm done. Joan filled her stomach with water and waited for the image of a ram to leave her head. It never did. When she was finished drinking, her rescuer sucked water out of the straw. Thank you so much for helping me, Joan said.
Don't mention it. What's your name?
Joan, and yours?
Joshua.
Do they call you Josh?
No, not really. But you can if you want.
Nah.
Suit yourself.
So what do you do?
I'm a construction worker. And you?
I'm a CPA.
Cool.
The noble ram's nose pointed up the trail.
What trailhead are you parked at?
The west.
The west isn't too far away. Can you walk?
I think so. Joshua picked up a walking stick.
Here, use this. I'll help you get to your car.
Joan stood up. The rest and the water had helped refresh her. With the sun dipping below the crest of the mountains, she cooled even more. They walked. Joan's legs burned. The sun's light disappeared, leaving a Shirley Temple glow wisping the highest mountains. Joan collapsed. Dust and grit seeped into her mouth. Joshua placed his hand on her shoulder.
Stand up. I'll help.
She struggled to her feet one more time. Dizzy and weak, she moaned, I can't. Joshua stood in front of her and slouched down.
Jump on my back. I'll carry you the rest of the way.
No, I'm way too heavy,
Don't tell me you're too heavy.
he rebuked sharply.
I know the weight I can bear.
All right. Joan draped her arms over his shoulders. Joshua slumped onward, carrying her all the way to the parking lot.
I told you I could do it.
He set Joan down on a park bench. Stars pierced the sky. The mountains disappeared. Thank you, Joan said, eyes watering.
You're not that heavy.
Yeah, sure.
You found something worth living for.
Huh?
The right treasure is worth selling everything.
What are you talking about? The ram smiled.
I can see it in your eyes. You know.
Maybe. Joshua looked toward the parking lot.
You need me to drive you home?
No, I'm good. Where are you parked?
I'm not.
Huh?
I walked here.
You need a ride?
No.
Sure? It is awfully dark.
It's okay.
He pulled out a flashlight and a camera from his bag.
I had plans to shoot photos of nocturnal animals.
All right. Thank you for everything.
Good night.
Joan arrived home late. Her body ached like thousands of matches igniting under her skin. She downed some nighttime pain medication, drank some water, and went to her bed. Sore and stiff, she called in sick the next day and slept until noon. Once Joan rose, she creaked to the restroom and stepped on the scale. 283, a couple of pounds lighter. All right, Joan, go to the sporting goods store. We're going to get rich. Joan strolled through the camping section, scanning the backpacks. What the hell am I supposed to get? I've never been backpacking. A couple of sales associates chatted near the sleeping bags. Joan walked over to the two. The tall, lanky associate spotted her. He stared sideways as she neared. Joan was used to such glares, and at that particular moment she wasn't bothered by it. The shorter, more built man, however, smiled warmly. He had brown eyes and dark hair.
How can I help you?
He asked. I'm looking for a backpack, Joan replied. The lanky associate scoffed. The friendlier worker glared at his associate and then looked back at Joan.
I can help you.
He walked over to the backpacks.
What are you looking for?
I don't know. A backpack.
For what purpose?
He smiled. Carrying stuff in the woods.
I need more than that. Did someone invite you on a backpacking trip?
Yeah.
Have you ever done one before?
No.
It's not any time soon, is it?
No. Why?
Well, you just want to make sure you are conditioned before you go.
Yeah, that's why I'm getting one now.
Good. Well, let's see what works. You have a budget?
Joan chuckled. A budget is the last thing on my mind. Just get me what works the best,
Okay.
the man said.
The main key is to get one that fits properly.
I wasn't expecting to have to try one on. That's the worst part of shopping. Now I have to try a backpack on, in front of a man. None of the ladies' backpacks fit, but the worker didn't make her feel ashamed. He must be working on commission. Eventually, he found a men's pack that fit, an orange and black internal frame pack.
How does that feel?
Good, I think. How do I pack this thing? Where do I put the heavier items?
You want the heavier items as close to your shoulder blades as possible. Not too low, high, or far out.
Oh, okay.
Anything else I can help you with?
Yeah, do you have a climbing rope?
Yes. You plan on climbing?
No, a friend wanted me to pick some up. He walked over to the rock climbing section.
Do you know what he needs?
Joan shrugged. Something to help him walk up a steep hill. Nothing for climbing.
Oh, okay. Does he need anything else?
He was talking about those handle-like things that grab onto the rope and help someone climb it.
These?
The man pointed. Yeah, how do they work?
Simple. You just attach them to the rope. They slide up without going down.
He demonstrated. Yeah, that's what he wanted.
Okay, anything else?
That should do it. Thank you for being so nice.
You're welcome. I understand what you're going through.
Huh?
I used to weigh over 300 pounds. Every time I tried to do something to help myself, people looked down on me. I thought, how the hell am I going to get better if everyone laughs at me when I try to fix my issues?
How'd you do it?
I just sucked up my pride and ignored everyone. Who knows if it was really even their thoughts or just my own?
Hopefully, this backpacking stuff will help me.
You gotta start somewhere.
What's your name? He pointed to his name tag.
Mike. Yours?
Joan hit her head. Joan. Mike smiled.
Well, Joan, if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask.
I won't. Joan gathered her items, checked out, and went home. Joan spent the next few days sticking to her normal routine. She needed time to let her muscles recover. Saturday morning, she went back. The sun rose over the mountains. Pine scents energized. Joan took a deep breath, closed her eyes, and visualized the route from the bottom of the split rock. She threw her pack over her shoulders. The bag was light, carrying only rope, a flashlight, pillows, and water. All right, Joan, let's do this. Pacing down the trail, Joan had a toddle-like energy. Don't overdo it. This is the easy part. It's going to be a lot harder coming back up with gold in my pack. It only took her 10 minutes to reach the gap. Staring into the chasm, she noticed that the bottom was brighter than the other day. You can do this. Joan anchored her rope to a tree near the entrance, and then threw the rope down. After throwing her backpack back on, she descended. By studying every detail of the rocks, Joan managed to find the cave within the hour. This was easier than I thought it was going to be, she said once she spotted the cave. Removing her pack, Joan pulled out her flashlight and crawled in. In the deeper chamber, the gold welcomed her. It didn't mock her. It would never laugh at her expense. It sat there waiting for her to take it home. Who wants to come home with me? Joan's voice echoed. Grabbing one bar, she held it in her hand, estimating the weight and examining the details. Perfectly rectangular. I always thought gold bars were more trapezoidal. There are no marks or stamps on it. It has got to weigh about 10 to 15 pounds. How many should I take? Huh? I don't think I can handle more than 2 right now. At that rate, it will take me years to get it all out of here. Ah, I will be able to carry more as I get in better shape. Joan left the cave. Outside, she scanned the area as she packed the bars. I hope no one is watching, guarding the gold. The 2 lone bars tripled the weight of her pack. She struggled to work it over her shoulders, leaving her huffed and puffed when she finally strapped everything in place. Now for the hard part. Joan trudged to the rocky gap. It taunted her, reminding her of being stuck in its rough grip. She clenched her teeth and grabbed the rope handles. You can do this. You will make it to the top. Joan took a step, and another. She drove her body into the split like a linebacker smashing through an offensive line. Grit ground her skin as she pushed through. Shove by wriggling shove, she forced her way to the top. Once through, Joan fell to the ground, gasping with her face in the grass. I made it! She rolled to her side. The weighty pack helped her. Sweat streamed down her face, burning her eyes and salting her tongue. Spitting, she took a few minutes to catch her breath. After unstrapping herself, Joan rolled away. She examined her elbow. It bled a road-rashed bleeding. Small price to pay. Joan fought her swirling head as she forced herself to her feet. Once her wooziness vanished, Joan packed her rope and pulled her backpack back on. The uphill jaunt drained her reserves. She reached the parking lot. The final thud of her dropping pack stamped the end of that day's workout. Joan shouted with a gasping glee. I did it! A force pushed her from behind. Her body seemed to think she still had the pack on. After chugging 2 bottles of water, Joan checked her watch. It took me less than 3 hours to do all that. If I was in better shape, I could do another trip. Soon. Soon. Joan went home. She did another trip Sunday and then spent the work week recovering. Weekends came and went and the trips got easier. And she was able to carry more bars in more trips. Soon, she gained courage to venture out to the cave on weekdays, taking 1 walk after work. As summer passed, Joan worked up to 2 trips every day except Wednesday, and on Saturdays and Sundays she was doing at least 4. In late August, Joan started to get tangled in her clothes. Nothing fit her. Her coworker noticed too. One Saturday, she stepped onto the scale. 205 pounds. I can't remember the last time I was this light. Joan, you have to get new clothes. She spent the rest of the day buying new everything. After she came back from shopping, Joan went to her basement storage room. The gold stacked high against the wall. She had yet to sell a single piece. How am I going to do this? A person can't just go into a pawn shop with pallets of gold and sell it. I don't even think I dare go in with one bar. That'll only raise questions. I could break it down into small pieces, go to different places whenever I need money. Do I really need any more? Look at all this. I could easily live the rest of my life with what I have here. Sure, you could, Joan. But why leave any behind? Let's just gather it all, then I'll figure out how to sell it. The golden leaves of fall came. And more bars stacked in Joan's basement. Nearly 6 months had passed since she had found the gold. Joan woke up one cold Saturday. Her pajama drawstrings dangling, Joan walked to the scale. 162. She cried a happy sob and then chuckled. I need new clothes again. Joan grabbed her backpack and tried putting it on. The waist strap wouldn't tighten. The padding butted where the buckle met. I need a new backpack too. A woman's one. And some winter clothes. Joan walked through backpack displays. She spotted Mike as he assembled a snowshoe display. She turned away. Will he recognize me? Should I talk to him? What should I say to him? All right, let's do this. I need his help. She walked over. Hey, Mike, Joan said to his back. I need another backpack. Startled, Mike turned around.
Do I know you?
Yeah, Joan smiled. You sold me a backpack several months ago. I may have been a bit larger then.
Joan, wow, you look great.
Thanks. Her knees weakened. He remembers my name.
How much did you lose?
Over 100 pounds.
All from backpacking?
Yes.
I'm so proud of you.
The man smiled the largest, most sincere smile directed her way. Thanks.
What are you up to?
I think I need a new backpack and some winter gear. What do you recommend?
Have you ever been snowshoeing before?
Of course not.
You should. It's a great workout.
Show me what you recommend.
All right.
Mike demonstrated and explained all the winter gear. Snowshoes, jackets, snow boots, and walking sticks. Excitement permeated his voice. You make it sound like fun.
Oh yes. Winter hiking in the mountains. There is nothing more beautiful, serene, or peaceful.
Sounds more fun than what I had planned.
Make sure to avoid avalanche-prone areas.
They went silent. Joan looked into his eyes. They were nearly a copper hue of brown. He looked back.
I'm glad to see you again.
Mike said softly, nodding. Thanks, Joan whispered, nearly tearing up.
You doing anything tonight?
Mike asked, voice shaky. No, Joan said. Her gut quivered.
Want to get a bite to eat?
Sure, Joan said calmly, hiding her enthusiasm.
What time is good to pick you up?
7,
Okay, I can pick you up then.
Mike said. Joan gave him her address and walked away. Yes, yes, yes! She pumped her fist as she rode down the escalator. Joan, 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 you don't have any good date clothes. She looked at her watch. It's 3. You have to get something, fast. The plus-size store was her habitual shopping grounds. A cute black ruffled dress screamed, "Buy me!" Joan grabbed it off the rack and tried it on. It was much too big. Her new body added several unintended ruffles. Joan changed back and took the outfit to a sales rep. Excuse me, ma'am, Joan said. Do you have anything smaller? What size do you need? The woman asked. I don't know. The rep grabbed the dress and looked at the tag. This is our smallest size. The smallest? I can't believe that. I usually hear something more like, you might be able to squeeze into this one. Sorry. You can try out Monet May. They're really the same store, we're just the plus-size version. Thanks. Monet May. I can't believe I can actually go shopping there. Joan trotted the mall halls. A Monet May rep superciliously nodded at Joan as she walked in, barely acknowledging her. I'm looking for this black dress with ruffles, Joan said.
This way!
The skinny ditzy woman moped over to the dresses.
Here, you might be able to squeeze into this one.
Her high-pitched voice screeched. She limp-handedly handed Joan the dress. Thanks, Joan said. After a chuckle, her thoughts sighed. That's more like what I'm used to. But at least I'm hearing it at a skinny person store. The girl's skin darkened and spotted. Her nose blackened, stretching out like a time-lapse slideshow of a growing plant. Her teeth snaggled. The rep morphed into one of those hairless, yappy dogs. Joan shied away at first, cringing from the image. My mind is playing tricks on me again. She relaxed. The creature's eyes trembled as if she was cornered. Joan sighed. She's my age and is still working in the mall. She can't make a lot, at least in commission. Why do people feel the need to lash out at complete strangers? It has to be some defense mechanism. It has to be... I refused to believe that the world is so cruel, just for pleasure.
What are you looking at?
The yappy dog yipped. Sorry. Joan went to the changing room. Facing away from the mirror, Joan slid the dress on. Everything tucked into place nicely. All right. Joan held her breath. Let's see how this looks. She turned around. Tears welled at her reflection. Ruffles swerved down her front like a beauty contestant's sash. The skirt hugged her hips as if it cared. I've done it. I made the normal person store. Joan changed back and checked out. The hairless dog waited at the register.
Did it fit? If not, our plus version of the store is right around the corner.
I was just there. Everything was too big. This one fits just fine. Thanks.
Whatever.
Mike took Joan to an Italian restaurant. Tuscan arches, low-lit candles, and oodles of wine racks created a romantic atmosphere unfamiliar to Joan. Mike placed his hand on the small of her back, guiding her to their greeter. Her diaphragm quivered. Please keep your hand there. Reservations? The maitre d' asked. Mike gave the man his information, and the maitre d' guided the two to a table. Pulling a chair out for Joan, Mike said,
So where are you from originally? The South?
Missouri. How'd you know? I thought I lost my accent. Joan sat.
Mostly. You just give a hint of it here and there.
Mike took his seat across from Joan. The candle flickered dancing shade on his face. Joan blushed. He cares enough to notice the small things.
So, how were your backpacking trips?
Good. They were a lot of fun.
Where'd you go?
Just around this area.
Did you go to the top of Mount Caris?
No.
Wow, I can't believe you went backpacking here and didn't do that. You need to go there. The view is amazing.
Maybe you can take me.
Sure.
They small-talked until done. Then they went to a coffee shop, talking late into the night. Joan didn't want that night to end, fighting to keep conversations alive. Mike wasn't bothered by her attempts to prolong the date. Somewhere, as they chatted about a dog, Joan was too tired to remember exactly what they had been talking about. Mike yawned. Joan, too.
I had a really good time tonight.
Mike said. Me too.
We should do this again.
When?
Want to go on a picnic tomorrow to Mount Caris?
How long does it take to get up there?
I don't know, a couple of hours. It is not that long of walk.
Sure.
You get some sleep then. I'll pick you up at 9.
Sounds good. This has to be too good to be true. Another date? Another date so soon? Aren't men supposed to play some sort of game where they wait 3 or 4 days to call? Or something like that? Is it a bad sign that he wants to get together so soon? Is he a creeper? Oh, Joan. Stop. Just stop. You'll be a billionaire soon, and if he dares do anything, I'll... No. I won't need to. After awkwardly tapping her shoulder with his fist, Mike parted. The doorbell rang the next morning. Startled, Joan sat up. In the midst of her morning haze, Joan scanned the room. 9:15. Damn. I slept in. Joan jumped into her clothes, ran down the stairs and opened the door.
I thought you were standing me up for a second.
Mike said, stepping into her entryway. Sorry, I just slept in. I couldn't sleep last night.
That's fine.
Mike chuckled.
You still up for our hike?
I'll get my pack.
The one you just bought?
Yeah. Why?
You don't need anything that big. In fact, I have all we need packed in my day bag. You just need something warm to wear.
Oh, okay. I'll be right back. Once she was ready, Joan jumped into Mike's car. He drove to the very trailhead where she had found her treasure. She chuckled as she got out of the car. All the times I traveled on this path, I never ventured further than the gap.
What's so funny?
Mike asked. I've been to this trailhead a few times.
And you've never gone to the top of Mount Car-East?
No. Joan smiled. They walked the downhill first stretch, reaching the rocky gap. Joan stopped and stared.
What are you looking at?
Mike asked. Just wondering. Joan paused and let her treasure stew in her thoughts.
Wondering what's down there.
Sure.
Probably just more rocks and trees. You won't get a good view down there.
They hiked on. At times, the trail slithered by cliffs with views of a pine-filled valley. Rock formations towered. Joan panted a hint as they continued. The trail was steeper than anything she had walked. It made that draw look like child's biker ramp. A light-headed awe filled her lungs as she stared at a nearby rock formation. A man climbed toward the top, over 100 feet in the air. How do they get the courage to climb so high? Joan asked.
Have you ever climbed before?
No, I don't think I could.
You'd be surprised what you can do when you have the proper motivation.
Not me.
Putting the fear aside, if you could climb one of those rocks, wouldn't you want to?
Well, yeah.
If it is your desire, don't close off the possibilities.
Okay. One steep, winding ascent later, they reached the summit. Hill City stretched off in the distance. Evergreen green dabbed with deciduous red, orange, and yellow hues painted the rolling landscape. The cool air fought against the warm sun, goading goosebumps. Joan shivered every time a gust hit her. The bare peak provided no protection from the wind. Beyond the colors, snow-capped peaks towered.
Like the view?
Mike stood behind Joan and rubbed her shoulders. It is amazing. I wish I would have known about this sooner.
You think this view is amazing. You should go to the top of that mountain.
Mike wrapped his arms around her and pointed to the tallest white-capped peak. What's that mountain?
That is Mount Nicky, the tallest mountain in this region. You can't hike to the top of that one.
Have you been up there?
Yes.
Mike smiled a flashbacking smile.
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to go up there, but my weight had kept me from even making the attempt. I got sick and tired of not being able to do it. One day, I decided I was done. For years, I had told myself I needed to lose weight first, and then I would work on reaching the top. I thought I needed to change my habits first. I just couldn't. Finally, I said, screw it. I'm going to climb to the top regardless of my weight. I got those looks when I went to the sporting goods store and told them my goals. But I had peace. I started with the smaller mountains. When I first reached this peak, I thought I had conquered the world. But here, the great peak beckoned me all the louder. I knew there had to be more to the mountaintop experience than this small foothill. Once I mastered the hikeable hills, I began climbing training. I started the fake wall. I had to build my strength. It was tough. I couldn't even hold my own weight. Eventually, I got the hang of it. Soon I was able to climb the wall easily. Then came time for my first real rock cliff. Before I started, I was cocky. I was sure that since I had the fake wall mastered, the cliff face would be easy. I was wrong. It was humbling. Humiliating, actually. They had to call search and rescue. To think, after having mastered the fake wall, I wanted to be a climbing instructor. How arrogant was I? After nearly a year of climbing rock cliffs, I gained confidence. The more I learned about rock climbing, the more I realized how little I knew. Finally, the day came for me to make my climb. I knew it wouldn't be easy. I was right. But the sight from the top made the work well worth it. It was amazing.
You're making me want to climb it.
If you want to,
Yeah, okay. Joan chuckled.
just let me know when you're ready
For what?
to climb it.
Mike's brows dropped to serious. Okay, Joan whispered. They moved to a rock and sat down. Mike set lunch out between them, sandwiches and pita chips. Joan took a bite. The turkey was dry but not unpleasant. I can't believe I haven't been up here before.
That's okay. Where have you been?
Should I tell him? No, not yet. I don't know the names of any of them. Do you know any other spots I should check out?
Yeah. I can take you to some of the best hidden spots.
That sounds like fun. Throughout the winter and into spring, Mike and Joan fell in love. They snowshoed and hiked trails all around Hill City. Mike even started her on the fake rock wall. Down around 140 pounds, Joan didn't think she could lose any more weight. She had changed her diet. Eating something greasy or sugary churned her gut. The entire courting period, Joan only took 4 trips to her gold-laden cave. Mid-June, Mike asked Joan to meet him on Mount Carr East at 11. Joan walked to the top. The split rock chasm barely found attention in her peripherals. A cloth-covered table sat at the top of Mount Carr East. The table was set with class, candles, and an ice-soaking bottle of wine. Mike flipped mushroom kebabs on a portable grill. What's this? Joan asked.
I just thought I'd cook a beautiful meal for my love.
Oh. Her eyes watered. This is so... Mike kissed and hugged Joan.
Take a seat.
Joan sat down. How'd you get all this up here?
I know how to pack.
Mike poured wine into the glasses. A nice sweet Riesling.
To us.
They toasted. Joan sipped her wine. Mike scanned the valley with a set of binoculars.
What's that?
What's what?
In that meadow. I see something.
Mike handed her the binoculars. Joan brought them to her eyes. Which meadow?
That one, with the white in the middle of it.
With hands caressing her cheeks, Mike guided her binoculars. Joan spotted fuzzy white letters nestled in calm, flowing green. She adjusted the focus. The word Mary was the first one she saw. Her ribs rattled. She found the beginning and read. Joan, will you marry me? She dropped her binoculars and faced Mike. On bended knee, he held up a ring, diamond solitaire inside a velvet-lined case. Oh, Mike, Joan cried. Yes, I will marry you. They held each other as clouds pulled their shadows over the pine sea. Joan absorbed her new fiancé's warmth, crying, unbelieving the day had come. A new treasure. Once they finished hugging and eating and such, they walked together back to the parking lot. They passed that rocky draw. Joan stopped, staring yet another time. I should tell him what's down there. I need to tell him. We can't keep such secrets from each other. This treasure has changed my life. I need to share it. Joan opened her mouth. Mike. Her words wouldn't come out.
What are you looking at?
Mike asked.
You keep getting drawn to that draw? You want to go down there?
No. Joan shook her head. Nah, let's just go. Having had to work the closing shift, Mike dropped Joan off at home. The next morning, Joan stared at her ring. Details of her dream wedding slide showed through her head. What if we got married on top Mount Carr East? Is that even possible? It would be perfect. How is all this even possible? Everything good that could happen is happening. Joan sighed. Something has to give. She went to her basement. Scanning her treasure, Joan slid her fingers over the gold. The storage room was nearly full. Most of the gold was out of the cave. What am I going to do with this? Why did I even take so much? I have no idea how I can sell it. It's not mine. Should I even bother getting the rest? There's hardly any left. You have too much energy to just sit around. Joan, Get the rest, and I can tell Mike about it tonight. Maybe he can tell me what to do with it. Joan grabbed her backpack. Rain rolled in. Joan slipped her backpack off, tucking it into the entrance of the cave. She slid back her red poncho's hood as she crawled in. Rain went silent and she moved deeper. Only the sway of her poncho swished. Joan stood when she reached the inner chamber. She flipped on her flashlight. Oh no. The beam trembled as Joan swept her light. Where'd it go? The rest of the gold was gone. Did someone else find it? Did the original owner come back for it? Or did someone else stumble into it? Joan, you have to leave. Whoever hid it here will be pissed if they find out you have it. Joan ran out of woods, scanning to make sure no one was watching. As she drove home, she constantly glanced to her rear-view mirror. I should have been content. Why did I go back? Just because I was bored. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? Once she reached her house, Joan jumped out of her car, whipping her eyes throughout the neighborhood. Not having spotted anything suspicious, she relaxed a hint. As she walked to her house, she called Mike.
Hey, what's up, dear?
Mike asked. Can you come straight to my house after work?
Yeah, you okay?
I'm fine. I just need to tell you something important when you get back.
Gee, sounds like bad news.
No, it is actually good news, I think.
Oh, like you won $1 million?
Mike chuckled. Something like that.
What?
I mean, it's hard to explain. I just have to show you, okay?
Okay, love you.
Love you too. Joan walked through her door, shut it, and leaned against it. Sighing, Joan put her phone back in her pocket. The door slammed open with a sudden jolt. The knob cracked Joan's side as it knocked her to the floor. Joan groaned. 2 men stomped in. The taller one shut the door behind them. The shorter one bent down, bringing his lips close to Joan's ear.
So you're the tramp that stole our gold.
Joan's side and elbow ached. With her breath taken, Joan couldn't speak.
Wheels, tie her up.
The smaller one ordered the other.
Yes, Pseudo.
Wheels flipped Joan to her stomach, pressed a knee in her back, and gathered her arms behind her. He lashed them together with duct tape. Joan grimaced as his force aggravated her stabbing pain. Once he had finished her arms, he wrapped her legs.
Set her in a chair.
Pseudo ordered. Wheels threw Joan on a dining room chair and wrapped her chest with duct tape. She panted, ached groans.
So where is our gold?
Pseudo wrung his hands around Joan's neck. The man's wide, pupilled eyes yellowed. His nose grew out black, streaked with gray. Wolfish fangs dripped with saliva. His ears bent back in anger. His partner morphed into a wolf as well.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Joan gasped out. A paw smashed her face.
Where is it?
What? Blood pooled between Joan's bottom lip and teeth.
I don't like games. You hear me?
The voice growled, low and guttural. Joan remained silent. Pseudo pulled Joan's rain hood over her face and smashed down the nylon. Red visions of blood stormed as she flailed and groaned to breathe. Va savant. She eventually managed to murmur.
What did you say?
He removed the hood. Joan gasped a few breaths. It's in the basement. The gold is in the basement.
Was that so hard? We would have found it anyway. Since you were so cooperative, I just may let you live. Wheels, go to the basement.
The beta wolf scampered downstairs. Pseudo's snout snarled near Joan's face.
We spent too many years in jail for that gold. We just got out a week ago and have been watching the cave. Good thing we found it so soon. Otherwise, we may not have been in such a good mood. Hell yes!
A muffled voice shouted from the basement.
Looks like he found it.
Pseudo smiled and straddled Joan, sitting on her lap. His arms rested on the chair back. His nose pressed close to hers.
So, how much did you spend?
None. Joan spoke hoarsely.
Oh, come on. With as much work as you did taking that out, how do you expect me to believe that? Just be honest. A bar or two won't make me mad. There is plenty.
Really? None.
Really? Well, I'll bet right about now you wished you had.
Wheels returned from the basement carrying gold like a load of firewood.
How much was there?
Pseudo asked.
A lot. Most of what we were missing, if not all. Yes!
The alpha wolf howled and hopped to his feet.
Pull the van up, and we'll start loading it.
Wheels left. Pseudo grabbed handkerchief, stuffed it in Joan's mouth, and secured it with duct tape. Fang smiling, he said,
Thanks. You did all the hard work for us. It was a pain in the ass to get it down there. I can only imagine how hard it was for you to get it out.
Joan watched as they took the gold. She was in too much pain to even try to escape. Please get it loaded before Mike gets here. They'll kill him. The only thought that circled in Joan's head. For over a year, she labored gathering that treasure, and it was all slipping away. The two wolves were efficient. They gutted her basement within 3 hours. When finished, the alpha wolf looked at his prey with pity. He softly rubbed the back of his paw on Joan's cheek. Joan turned her head away.
You can share the treasure with us if you want. We're going to a nice tropical paradise.
Joan stayed still.
I'm not as bad as you think. I've never killed anyone, actually. You should come with us. You did most the hard work. Share it with us. Just nod if you want to come.
Joan did not move.
Okay, have it your way.
Pseudo laughed.
See how you live without your treasure.
Wheels motioned for Pseudo to hurry.
Is someone going to be here for you soon?
Again, Joan didn't reply.
I hope so. I wouldn't want you to die like that. But hey, it's not my problem.
He smiled.
Just to show you there are no hard feelings.
The man set one bar on her lap.
Here.
With a slam of the door and a rev of a van engine, they were gone. Joan tried to free herself, but her pain made a struggle unbearable. She couldn't do anything but watch out her window and... wait. Joan's arms tingled the falling asleep numbness. Her mouth and throat were parched. Mike, hurry. Please hurry. Each car perked her up, only leading to disappointment when she realized it wasn't Mike. The men left her lights off. As night bore on, she sat in darkness. She dropped her head and almost drifted to sleep sometime around 10. Trotting steps woke her. The door opened and Mike turned on the lights.
Joan, what happened?
Mike ran over and took the gag out of her mouth. I'm sorry. I was going to tell you tonight, I swear I was. I didn't think anyone would come for me. I'm sorry. Joan sobbed as Mike untied her.
Wait to tell me. You're hurt.
Joan laid propped upright on her hospital bed, 2 broken ribs and a dislocated elbow. Mike sat at her side.
That's all right. I forgive you. I was worried at first you were going to tell me something bigger. Hell, I would have done the same.
Mike smiled.
So, you wanted the backpack to go after gold, not for a backpacking trip? I did think it odd that you never went to the top of Mount Car Ease.
Yes, and now it's all gone. I did all that work for nothing.
Was it really for nothing?
Joan shrugged.
I am just so happy they only took the gold and not your life.
And I'm glad they left before you got there. Who knows what they would have done to you? Mike shrugged. So what do you think the cops are going to do with the bar of gold they left me?
I'm not sure, but I doubt we'll get it back.
That's okay. I found something better anyway. Mike squeezed her hand. Mike?
Yes.
I think I'm ready.
Ready for what?
I think I want to climb Mount Nicky. Mike's brows wobbled of both confusion and excitement.
The training will be tough.
I know. Joan smiled. I know.